In the continent of ransaking, in the kingdom of visions, we left the pink fortress in the north, thriving on its own. Now we head south, where a solitary fortress belonging to another dwarven civilization called the Lens of the Rock is located. A group of dwarves created their own civilization in this area of the map, led by King Thikut Tradement, who founded the fortress in year 1. In its early years, the Lens of the Rock prospered steadily, defending itself against attacks from huge and dangerous creatures. But in the year 60, things started to go wrong. The goblins from the civilization called the Horror of Guilt settled in the area and created large pits where they thrived for years, growing stronger and stronger. Soon, the entire area was infested with goblins. That same year, they suffered their first attack, but thanks to the cleverness of the dwarf who led the defense, named Logum, who died in the attack, they managed to repel it. However, they had no time to recover, as the following year, an even fiercer attack assailed the fortress and looted it. It was a horrifying moment in the history of the Lens of the Rock. During the defeat, the dwarf Zan Amusador was horribly mutilated in front of the survivors, while Athel Heavy Constructs and the new captain of the guard, Solon Soakedwind, were impaled at the fortress gates. From that defeat, the goblins constantly attacked for the following years, plundering and impaling dwarves to demonstrate their dominance and terrorize the few survivors locked in the deepest chamber of the fortress. In the year 65, Vuka Clasped Clouted, a survivor of the previous attacks, was appointed general, and thanks to his defense strategy, he managed to repel the goblin attacks for several years. But due to their perseverance and numbers, in the year 71, a massive goblin army attacked the fortress, killing and completely destroying it. Vulcan and Baron Ushria Glazerout were hanged on the path leading to the fortress as a warning to potential survivors about the consequences of rebelling against the Horror of Guilt's goblins. The fortress was taken and occupied by the attackers, and many survivors were taken prisoner and brought to the eastern pits as slaves to work for the construction and glory of the goblin civilization. Years passed, and in the year 105, several dwarves managed to escape the clutches of the goblins with few supplies and some animals. Their mission was clear: to seek revenge for the horrors inflicted upon their ancestors and reclaim the lost fortress called Glovetmute from the goblins, thereby restoring the glory of the almost extinct civilization of the Lens of the Rock. The dwarves couldn't flee too far without being detected, as the entire area was infested with goblins. So they settled near a small lake to the east, close to where they had endured years of forced labor, leaving small clues along the way for other survivors to find them and join their cause. Here begins the story of the last survivors. The dwarves worked hard to dig the entrance to their new home in the lake's peninsula. The area was ideal for them, as the cliffs surrounding the peninsula provided natural protection against any attacks. Once they finished excavating, the dwarves found themselves in a large underground space. They decided to build a room with the most essential workstations, such as carpentry, masonry, kitchen, and alcohol distillery. This room became the center of life in their new underground home. Next to the main room, the dwarves constructed a small dining hall where they could eat and enjoy each other's company. There they socialized and plotted revenge against the goblins who had enslaved them. Below the common room, they built a farming area where they cultivated plump helmets and other useful plants. They also constructed a small room for their animals, which they had managed to steal before escaping. They had some pigs, turkeys, and a mule and an ox that carried all their supplies. Just below the farming area, they mined a large storage room big enough to hold everything they needed. The dwarves knew they had to have a good storage system if they wanted to survive in their new underground home. Below the storage room, they built makeshift but cozy bedrooms where the dwarves could sleep and rest. They also constructed 2 offices, one for Ushat Saziratost, the leader of the expedition, and another for Dakost, the accountant. Both worked hard to keep everything organized and running smoothly in this small underground home. Among all the animals, the only ones that couldn't eat scraps or insects from the clay floor were the mule and the ox. The dwarves faced a difficult dilemma: to sacrifice the animals or risk being discovered by the goblins. After considering all options, they decided to do what they had to do to survive, and though it pained them, they sacrificed the mule and the ox as they would starve without being able to graze inside. Despite the sadness, the animals' deaths were not in vain, as the dwarves utilized every part of their bodies. The leather was turned into straps and sacks, the meat into sausages and stews, and the bones were used to make tools and ornaments. With the turkeys, they discovered a new source of food, and soon several nesting areas were built to accommodate them. The eggs were used to make delicious omelets, and turkey meat became a favorite dish among the dwarves. The underground fortress began to thrive, and the atmosphere became more welcoming. Despite the difficulties, the dwarves were glad they had managed to establish a safe home and were motivated to continue their mission of reclaiming Glovatmute. Following the clues they had left, some new settlers began to arrive. Among them was Zon Lilaber, a doctor with extensive knowledge of medicinal herbs and their healing properties. Additionally, a couple with 2 children joined the community, and without hesitation, Kogan was appointed as the captain of the guard, and together with his wife, they formed the first squad in case of any problems. When Dr. Zon arrived at the colony, she immediately went to the leader of the expedition's office to thank them and share her story. She assured them that the signs of their presence were well hidden and that the goblins would never discover them. On the other hand, in the work area, the dwarves who had been previous prisoners of the goblins began spreading rumors about this safe place and started to hope for rescue by their fellow dwarves. They also mentioned that more and more dwarves would join the community. Although few leaders of Glovatmute survived, the dwarves were willing to welcome all who arrived seeking refuge. Over time, the dwarves managed to dig deep enough to reach an underground cavern. At first, they were cautious, fearful of what might lurk in the darkness, but they soon realized they had found an even safer place to establish their home. And so, 5 years have passed. Above ground, the dwarves have mined the small peninsula, making it inaccessible from the outside and creating a safe place for fishermen to fish in secret. Below, the dwarves' old home has been converted into a 3-level tree farm, while the animals have been distributed into their respective rooms, and the farms continue to be very fertile. But if we continue descending down the stairs, everything has been moved, and we reach the new home of these brave dwarves. In the center of the main dining hall, several tables where the dwarves share their meals and conversations can be found. The food storage extends on the lower floors, constantly replenished by the colony's farmers and fishermen. Passing the bridge where the back staircase leads up to the farming area, we find the industrial zone, a bustling hub of activity. Specialized workbenches are used to create objects of all kinds, from tools and weapons to decorative items and magical artifacts. The most skilled dwarves in craftsmanship and metalworking dedicate themselves to this task, proud of their ability and dexterity. To the left is the hospital, a tranquil and relaxing place with dim lights and beds to aid in the recovery of the sick and injured. The well that leads to the underground lake provides an inexhaustible source of fresh and clean water used in daily tasks and to quench the colony's thirst. One floor below is a large warehouse where all the items without a specific place in the colony are stored. And if we go down another floor, we find the main bedrooms of the dwarves, comfortable and spacious, decorated with hand-carved furniture and equipped with wardrobes and chests to store their belongings. The corridors are adorned with statues of the ancient leaders of Glovetmute, reminding the dwarves of their history and legacy. During their 5-year stay in the underground cavern, they have built several unique objects that showcase their skill in craftsmanship. One of these artifacts is the Tushkadustia stool, found in the dining hall of Mayor Seebeck and her husband, the captain of the guard. This stool is made of bituminous coal and features an engraved crown at the center. It is undoubtedly an impressive and unique piece that reflects the dwarves' creativity and ability. Another impressive item is Kotozul, a weapon rack located in their private room. This rack is made of iron with spikes around it and bone cabochons from the mule they sacrificed upon arrival. It's a testament to the dwarves' ability to create objects that are both functional and aesthetically appealing. Additionally, over the past few years, they have built a magnificent tavern, investing many resources and efforts into it. It has several rooms that have not yet been used, as the fortress remains closed and hidden, and no visitors have arrived yet. The tavern serves as a gathering and resting place for the hard-working dwarves who are constructing their underground home. It offers a wide variety of beverages, from craft beers made with spring water to special liquors aged in oak barrels. The food is also excellent, with dishes prepared with products from the underground farm, such as cured pork meat and freshly baked bread. Turning to the left, we come across a well-equipped and organized barracks, home to the 1st Regiment of Dwarves, also known as the Inner Guard. This group of 10 dwarves is led by the captain of the guard, who ensures that his soldiers are always well prepared and equipped for any eventuality. Each dwarf wears an iron chainmail shirt, iron armor on top, a helmet, gloves, iron pants and boots, in addition to a shield and a weapon of their choice. Although they have been training for several years on a flexible schedule, they have not yet engaged in any real combat, as the fortress remains closed and hidden to ensure the safety of its inhabitants. You may have noticed this room with numerous levers along the wall. It is important to highlight that these levers are part of the defense system designed by the dwarves, so that in case of need, when the main gate of the fortress is opened, they can defend themselves against large armies. Now we will continue down this corridor to reach the main staircase that leads to the main entrance of the fortress. There, we can closely observe the complex mechanism the dwarves have constructed, which I will explain step by step. Outside, to the south of the fishing area, the dwarves have built a ramp that serves as the main entrance to the fortress. The ramp descends several levels until it reaches a corridor with a sealed bridge that closes the entrance. Further ahead, there is a retractable floor and a hermetically sealed metal door that grants access to the main staircase leading down to the fortress. The bridge, retractable floor and door are connected to 3 levers located in the security room. Above this corridor, there are 3 dams next to 3 grates that prevent the passage of water and intruders to another corridor, and at the end of this, there is another retractable floor that leads to the entrance corridor. The idea is that in case of an enemy attack, the corridor will close and the dams will open, causing water to flood the chambers and drown the intruders without the need for a direct confrontation. On the entrance floor, the retractable floor will be withdrawn, and the intruders will be pushed into a drop that leads to a room with more dams and grates. After everything is over, the water will drain through other grates to a lower floor, and through another hermetically sealed iron door, the dwarves can recover the bodies and loot. The dwarves feel secure with this whole mechanism, and although they haven't tested it yet, they have decided to open the doors and welcome visitors, traders, and possibly goblin attacks. They are not many, and they don't expect many more citizens. Only a few survivors remain, but they will do whatever is necessary to defend themselves while preparing militarily for a counter-offensive. The fortress gates were opened for the first time in a long time, and one of the first individuals to arrive was Ast Lolorakas, a world-renowned trader who had heard rumors about the fortress. Despite the risks involved, he decided to venture into it to offer his help. After leaving his goods at the trade station near the main entrance, he headed to the mayor's office to greet her and get acquainted. The leader was known throughout the kingdom for her bravery and courage in facing the dangerous goblin civilization. Ast was eager to talk to her and offer his services. After doing some business and discussing the challenges the dwarves were facing, Ast decided to leave. Although he was impressed by the fortress and the dwarves' courage, he knew that his safety could not be guaranteed in such a dangerous place. However, he pledged to return in the future if the fortress needed his help again. The fortress is undergoing a significant transformation, not only in terms of security, but also in terms of aesthetics and comfort for its inhabitants. Windows have been installed in the tavern, offering views of the cavern, just like in some of the rooms. Additionally, several temples dedicated to different gods have been constructed, bringing joy to the inhabitants. From the hallway on the residential floor, several stairs lead to temples of various sizes, providing a place of worship for those seeking guidance and protection from the gods. After the tragic death of Aerith, a young craftsman searching for non-existent materials for her next artifact, the inhabitants of the fortress decided to honor her memory with a mausoleum on the residential floor. This small temple is dedicated to the deceased young woman and contains a commemorative plaque in her honor. Although Aerith never managed to complete her artifact, her legacy lives on in the fortress, and her spirit continues to inspire the inhabitants to move forward, even in the darkest moments. As time passed, the fortress began to receive more visitors. Among them was a human crossbowman named OTU, who stopped by the tavern to share rumors about what was happening in the area. According to him, the goblins were still attacking the dwarven civilization to the north of his position, and to make matters worse, the elves had joined them and were plundering and destroying dwarven fortresses. This news was not well received by Rigoth, a dwarf who was visiting the fortress and had relatives in the north. Distrustful of Otu's words, the two argued and ended up fighting in the tavern. The situation escalated when the captain of the guard attempted to break them apart and received a blow that left him stunned on the floor. Eventually the fight stopped, but the news that the eastern elves had joined the goblins against the dwarves was not encouraging. Amidst the turmoil caused by the news from the outside, 2 goblin scouts managed to infiltrate the fortress. Fortunately, the guard dog alerted the inhabitants with its barks. The inner guard prepared to confront them in the entrance corridor. The first goblin was caught off guard on the stairs and was knocked down by a recruit who hit its foot. Despite their counterattack, the recruit managed to block the goblin and finish it off with an axe blow to the stomach, then decapitating it. The second goblin was caught in the lower floor hallway, in the entrance trap, where the commander of the guard managed to impale it with his spear, getting stuck in its stomach. A recruit quickly ended its agony by decapitating it. The fortress remained secure thanks to the efficient performance of its guard. The mayor becomes aware of an important problem. They cannot afford to leave the bodies of the dead enemies outside, as this could attract predators and alert the goblins to their position. Therefore, it is decided to build a very deep pit leading to a cavern located at great depth. This way, the dwarves will be able to throw the bodies down the hole, preventing the odors from spreading through the fortress. It is an interesting solution in case they ever need to dispose of a large number of enemy bodies. One day, an Eastern elven caravan unexpectedly arrives at the fortress. Although they are not at war with the Lens of the Rock, the elves are enemies of the dwarven brethren to the north. Therefore, the mayor gives the order to activate the floodable room for the first time. The elves enter the hallway and start unloading their goods for sale. To activate the floodable room, the hermetically sealed iron doors and the entrance bridge are first closed to prevent the water from escaping to the outside. Then, another dwarf opens the upper dams, filling the reservoir above the elves. The water rushes rapidly, flooding the entire hallway. The dwarves open the retractable floors, trapping the treacherous elves in their aquatic tomb. The elves run in terror, screaming for help, but no one can hear them. Eventually, they are carried away by the water into the loot collection room, where they drown without offering resistance. After enough time has passed, the lower dams are opened to drain the water. A massive volume of water falls into the drainage canal, and the mechanism works perfectly. After draining all the water, the hermetically sealed doors are opened, and the dwarves dispose of the bodies, which will rest at the bottom of the cavern. Then, they collect all the elven goods from the trade station. Thank you for joining us in this exciting story. The aid to the dwarves of the north has been fulfilled, and they have achieved a significant victory thanks to the flooding mechanism. Now, they will need to prepare a large army to confront the goblins in their own territory. But before that, it is time to celebrate and take a detailed inventory of all the elven objects that have been confiscated. Once again, thank you for witnessing this historic moment for the Lens of the Rock. See you in the next chapter. Bye.
Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find our long forgotten